In this video, we got another episode of this series where I rate and improve your guys' teams. You guys will send me your teams on Twitter at X7Tanaka. I'll put out a tweet maybe every couple days, every 3 to 4 days, asking for teams, and then you guys reply to that tweet with your team and how much MT you guys have, and you have a chance to be featured in one of these videos. But if you guys also want to comment down your team down below on the YouTube comment section, let me know your guys' squad and how much MT you guys are rocking with right now, and I'll try to respond to as many comments as possible and give you guys my best suggestions to help improve your teams. But looking at the first squad here of the video, comes in from my boy Zaza. He says his current team, and he was lucky enough to get James Worthy and Grant Hill in the token market, and tomorrow he will get Artis Gilmore, and he's got 1.3 million MT. But first off, got to give the rating out of 10. I would say this looks to be a very well-rounded team. I would say probably a solid 8.5 to maybe 9 out of 10. The first suggestions I would give is going to be to get Ron Artest over Sean Livingston, and then either have Livingston or Hito Turkoglu as your backup point guard. For your two shooting guards, I would get Vince Carter starting and then have Steve Smith off the bench. I think those will be two amazing shooting guard cards. And then for your small forward position, you know, your Jonathan Bender does have 39 Hoff badges. I would look to either get a Jonathan Isaac or look to get a Hero Scalabrine to either play your backup 3 or start them over Jonathan Bender and have Bender off the bench. I think Taco Fall is really good. I like Brook Lopez. What I would do for your bench is move Hakeem Olajuwon to the backup 4 and then look to get a Marc Gasol, look to get maybe a Pink Diamond Peter, look to grind for, you know, if you're going to get Gilmore, you can just play Gilmore as your backup center. So yeah, I do think your 10-man could look something like Ron Artest, Sean Livingston, Vince Carter, Steve Smith, Hero Scalabrine, Jonathan Bender, Taco Fall, Hakeem, Brook Lopez, and Artis Gilmore. I think that's a really good 10-man rotation, and then you do have some dark matters in those last 3 spots as well. But looking at the next squad here, coming in from my boy Mike, he's got 650,000 MT, and Kuzma does have 35 Hoff. So another really solid squad. I mean, you got cards like Yao Ming, Ron Artest, Luka Doncic, Taco Fall, Dikembe. I would say this is most likely a 9 out of 10 team. For your suggestions, once again, I would go ahead and get Vince Carter. I mean, you're going to be spending around 150k, so you'll still have 500,000 MT left over, and I think Vince is such a good offensive shooting guard and will pair alongside Ron Artest amazingly in that starting lineup backcourt. I think Ron Artest, Vince, and then you can keep Big Z, Jokic, and Yao. I think that's a really good starting lineup. Off the bench, I like Luka. You can keep Jimmy Butler there if you want to for defense. You could also keep Kyle Kuzma. I'd maybe recommend looking for a Jonathan Isaac or a Hero Scalabrine to play over Kuzma, even though he has 35 Hoffs. I would definitely take Hero Scal or Jonathan Isaac over Kuzma, and then I think you're perfectly fine with Taco and Dikembe as your backup front court. You can maybe look to grind for Rick Smith or Artis Gilmore to play over Dikembe Mutombo, but all around a really good squad. Looking at the next team here, coming in from Drew, he says a lot of stuff is selling, and he's looking at 1.2 to 1.3 million MT. Another really well-rounded squad. Not the biggest fan of cards like Clyde. I think Mo Bamba could be upgraded a decent amount with 1.2 or 1.3 mil. So I'd say like an 8 to maybe 8.5. You do have Yao Ming, you got Terry Dishinger, so you have some top level cards. I would say with 1.2 mil or 1.3, you need to get some better point guards. I would look to go ahead and get Ron Artest at starting point guard to pair alongside Terry Dishinger. And then off the bench, I would look to get a Hito Turkoglu and get his hero version as your backup point guard. Once again, I would get Vince Carter for the backup too. I think he'll be a really good backup to a Terry Dishinger. For your starting small forward position, I would get Jonathan Isaac. I think you need some defense, you need some size at that starting 3, and he's only around like I think 90 to 100,000 MT. So I'd go ahead and get Jonathan Isaac over Purvis Ellison, and then I would keep Big Z as your backup small forward. If you want to maybe look to get a better backup center, you could grind for an Artis Gilmore, or you can maybe get lucky and get a Rick Smith, or you can just go ahead and buy Dark Matter playoff Brook Lopez for only about 50,000 MT on Xbox, and he can be your backup 5 next to Taco Fall. And I think that's pretty much all you need for your suggestions. Just get 2 better point guards, get Vince Carter, get Jonathan Isaac, and then look to get an Artis Gilmore, Rick Smith, or maybe a Brook Lopez as well to play alongside Taco as the backup 5. Now looking at the next squad here, coming in from Paper, I think that's how you say his name, 231,000 MT, and another solid squad. I'd say it's a little bit weaker than the last couple ones. I would say this team's like a 7, a solid like 7 out of 10, maybe 6.5 to 7. Could definitely use a decent amount of upgrades, even with only 200k. Like, I think you can actually make some pretty big changes for For your 2 point guard positions, I would go Hito Turkoglu as the out of position. I would get him for your starting point guard, and then I would get Jalen Rose for your backup point guard. You could also play Shea. I just realized you have Shea because your lineup's all weird off the bench, but I would put Shea at starting point guard and then put Hito Turkoglu as your backup point guard, and you're good to go. I'd get rid of Scotty Barnes. I'd get rid of any other point guard on the team like Allen Iverson. For your 2 shooting guards, I would look to probably go ahead and get a Ricky Davis for your starting shooting guard spot and have Joe Johnson off the bench. So those are your 2 shooting guards. For your 2 small forwards, I would get Hero Scalabrine as their starting 3, and then I would bring Kyle Kuzma off the bench. For your 2 power forwards, Anthony Davis, I would probably sell if you can sell him. I'd probably also sell that Galaxy Giannis. And what I would do for your bigs is get cards like Marc Gasol, get cards like Brook Lopez, Joakim Noah, Miles Turner. Those are all great options as bigs that you can kind of pair, however you want to in the front court. And then I would also look to grind for an Artis Gilmore and look to grind for a Rick Smith because you do need some help at the center and power forward position. But that's what I do with your squad. I think you can actually build somewhat of a decent team with 200K and this kind of starting team. But looking at the next squad here coming in from Enzo, he says 350,000 MT, but pretend like Rick is here and Dikembe Mutombo is at backup power forward. So I assume you're starting Rick Smith next to Gilmore, and then you're going to Kembe at the backup 4, I guess is what you're doing, and then having Sabonis as your backup 5. I guess that's what he means. So rating out of 10, I would say like a 9. I think it's a solid team. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of your backup 1 and 2. That's where I would look to upgrade. So if you want to make a huge upgrade and spend most of your MT, I would go ahead and get Ron Artest and go ahead and get Vince Carter for your backup point guard and shooting guard spot. And I think you're good to go. 100%. Your team's pretty much perfect at that point with how much MT you have to spend. There's not really much else you can do to actually upgrade the squad. So if you want to spend most of your MT, I would look to go ahead and get Ron Artest for backup point guard, Vince Carter for backup shooting guard. If you wanted to start Vince over Luol Deng, you definitely could, but I like the defense with Deng and AK next to Luka Doncic, and I think you're pretty much good to go. I like Daryl Bailey and AK as your 2 small forwards as well. And then looking at the last team here of the video, guys, comes in from Nathan. He's got 100,000 MT to work with and a very solid squad. I would say another like 8.5 out of 10 team. I'm not sure if it's in the 9 range, but I think it's like a solid 8.5, a really well-rounded squad. I think with 100K, I would probably look to sell Kawhi Leonard and maybe go after a Richard Jefferson, go after a Luol Deng. I think Luol Deng is just a better version of Kawhi. They're both around the same height. They're both about the same defensively, but I think Luol Deng's got a way better jump shot and way better dribble sig. So I get Luol Deng and just play him at that starting 2 spot over Kawhi Leonard, and you do save yourself a lot of MT. I like your 2 point guards. I like your 2 shooting guards once you get Luol Deng. 2 small forwards are good. 2 power forwards are good. And then I would look to definitely look to grind for Artis Gilmore and Rick Smith. But if you maybe want to go after, trying to think of more expensive of a center card, I don't think you can really afford like a Kristaps. So I'd maybe look to obviously grind for Artis Gilmore and grind for Rick Smith. But if you can't get either of those cards, then even like a Joakim Noah, I think could be a great backup center, next to Marc Gasol. You'll have great size there and great defense and also very solid offense. Yeah, guys, that's going to do it for another episode of the series where I rate and improve your guys' teams. Let me know your squads down below on the YouTube comment section, and also let me know how much MT you guys have, and I'll try to get to as many comments as possible and help you guys out with your squads. But hopefully you guys did enjoy, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.